Look at that handsome dude up there, man.
All right, we're live on YouTube. All right, with no intro music, we'll start wide and we'll go 5, 4, 3.
Hello, Recovery fam. Welcome back to the Unashamed Recovery podcast, where we believe that there is healing in the story of our scars, and that there is hope, and that it is okay to not be okay. I messed that all up, but it's all good.
It's all good.
You did.
It's all good. I've had a whole lot worse.
It's better than me stuttering through it.
Take two.
There ain't no taking two. We're live.
Nah, I got
so
you.
we'll just have to edit this in post. But
Right,
anyway,
that's
go
right.
ahead, Drew.
It is our mission to break the shame and stigma of addiction and recovery by sharing real stories of real people and real addiction and real recovery and real sobriety.
That's right. Without Palmer here, we're a man short, but we got John in the studio with us today. I'm your host, Josh.
I'm your co-host, Drew.
And I'm Brother Phoenix from Black Sheep Recovery
Brother
Warfare.
Phoenix. Brother Phoenix. And
We were just talking about a phoenix,
then we were.
Yeah.
It's amazing how God works.
right?
This is episode 59, Rebuilding the Ruins. That's a good topic.
It is a very good topic.
I like that topic.
I do too.
Rebuilding.
You certainly picked a good one, or God did.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
for
That
this
was
episode.
that was all God. Rebuilding the ruins. And
It kind of goes along with my favorite recovery verse, and that's, Joel 2:20. For all the things
lay
that
it
you-
on us.
For all the things that you have lost, you will receive back. All the things that the cankerworms, the locusts have eaten, I will give back to you 1,000 times fold. So,
Everything that the enemy stole
Yeah.
will be returned to you.
I like
That's right.
I like it. Well, I didn't know about that verse, and that verse goes very well with this. How this episode came about was I was reading in Acts, and it was Acts 15:16. I'm going to read that right quick as we get started into this. The words of the prophets agree with this, as it is written. After this, I will return, and I will rebuild the fallen tent of David. I will rebuild its ruins and restore it, so that the rest of humanity may seek the Lord, namely all the Gentiles that I have called to be my own, says the Lord, who makes these things known from long ago.
Amen.
And I was reading that, and that has nothing to do with recovery whatsoever. That's one of the things. It is prophecy. It's talking about rebuilding the temple. But when I was reading it, I was like, man, that is prophecy that was from the Old Testament talking about this thing being rebuilt. You can put that thing in stone. It is prophecy. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's coming. That's going to come true.
Do you know we've seen that prophecy fulfilled? Like you guys, and I have since I started this journey. We get to see that prophecy fulfilled a lot.
Yeah. On a day-to-day, almost.
I know it's been fulfilled in my life. I know it's been fulfilled in y'all's, man.
Yeah.
So that rings true, like big time, man.
Well, and
It's a consistent work in mine where
Yeah.
God's just steadily showing me areas that have been damaged that need reworked or rebuilt, or something that has been torn completely down that he's going to reconstruct, but in his way.
Yeah.
Well, when I was reading that, I had this moment of, all the things that I did in my past just haunt me.
Yep.
Sometimes it just cripples me. I'm paralyzed by my past. And sometimes I think that I'm too far gone to be able to be used or to do anything. And so I started thinking, I was like, what if I looked at my own life in the same aspect, in the same lens that I just read that verse of prophecy? When I read that verse, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, like, okay, well, this is prophecy. God is saying this, then it's going to happen.
Amen.
I mean, consider it done. What if I looked at my own life like that?
Right.
What if I looked at the healing in my own life with such as a matter of fact, like, hey, it's done. Like, God is going to come in and he's going to restore these ruins in my life. He's going to take what the enemy meant to destroy me, he's going to turn it for good. Like, what if, how much different would our lives be if we looked at it that way, of just, it's a matter of fact?
Right. I think it would be eons different.
Yeah.
As far as I think we would appreciate, where we're at now a lot more than I'm not saying that we don't appreciate it. I think sometimes we take for granted what God really does whenever He's taking what's been destroyed and rebuilding it in His way. But my bad.
No, that's fine.
I think sometimes it takes us to be broken. I think it takes a
sure.
broken building. If you ever look, whenever they do these the house flips, they take the house and they gut it out. They completely destroy the house. It looks like a ruined house if you walk through it. But then you come back a year later and it's something that, you're going to end up paying $1 million on the market for.
Yeah, sure. And you can literally use my life as an example for this, because when it happened to me, and this is why I really, took the name Brother Phoenix to use for the podcast, was like when the enemy got done with me, there was nothing left but ruin and ashes.
Yeah.
And, that's literally what happens to the phoenix. When it dies, it burns out and there's nothing left but a pile of ash. And then God took all of that ash and turned it for His good and rebuilt the man that I am today, and is using all of that, what I went through for 30 years of rebellion, against the enemy.
Right.
And I was smiling because I love it. Like, I've heard that story, and every time I hear it, I love it because, just a couple episodes ago, you were on the show talking about being the black sheep and going through your story. And if anybody has heard that story, anybody would have given you if you would have just rolled over and just died from what you went through, everybody, okay, well.
Well, that's literally what I was trying to do. I mean, I was going to crawl into an oak tree and
definitely.
take that fatal shot of fentanyl and it was going to be over with, but God had other plans.
Right. It was, people would have expected that, but man, from where you have come, it's the Phoenix.
It is true.
And I love hearing that story.
It's death and rebirth.
Yeah, most definitely. So,
and glory all to God.
And it's one of them things of this. This episode is a 100% orchestrated by God because of how it just happened to be where you got tied in to be here with us to speak on this.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you'd like, I'd tell the story. If you want to hear it, or if you
let's do an abbreviated version.
Let's do an abbreviated. Just a quick one of how it all fell into place.
Just for the ones that may have not heard it.
From episode 42, the black sheep, to this point, real quick, it's like, this is truly what God had intended for me. When I, from that time, the day He had me arrested and saved me from myself, through prison, He gave me the idea, for this, and He put that on my heart, and I had no means or no way of doing that. So through my introduction to you and doing the episode, and then from that point forward, to this studio and everybody that's been positioned in my life to pull this together, it's like that is what came from the ruins.
And that's just putting it lightly.
Yeah. That's just the abbreviated. It's like literally everybody, like Danny over there for Audio Alchemy. I didn't have a studio. I didn't have a mixer. I didn't even have a mic, Then putting Damien in my life to do the editing. I literally prayed for that for about 2 weeks after about the 4th episode because, it's like I was struggling with doing the editing and all that. So not even seeking anybody, Damien just calls me out of the blue, interested in being a guest. And then through that conversation, in that same conversation, he's like, well, just for, my spare time, I just do editing and make these reels. You should check it out. And I pretty much just told him, look, I don't even need to. I know this is God. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, welcome to the Black Sheep team. And then Stacy, my co-host, man, she came out of some serious addiction like I did, and she was saved from a horrific car crash. Her the love of her life literally shot himself in the head right in front of her and landed on top of her. Look what God did with her, and she went through college and she's getting, she's a
just graduated.
Yeah, just graduated. She's a therapist.
Just bought a house.
So she, when I saw her testimony last year. At the Grace Church, I knew she was going to be involved in some capacity. I didn't know at the time. I just figured a guess, but through that, now she brings that to the table with not just her addiction story and her, her testimony from that, but she brings a brain. And it's, and she's brilliant, man. She's so smart. And dude, I can't even, express in the words. I knew that I wanted a female on the as a host, to have that But he didn't just give me that, but he gave me one with a huge brain and the addiction background that I come from. So,
Right.
Yeah, man, it's it's one of them where when you're looking at it from the outside, you just you can't see all the areas that God is orchestrating. Man, just seeing this thing unfold is just it's unreal.
yeah. And we had our first event. I'm not trying to take away from that episode, but
You're good.
we just had our first event this past Saturday night as the Black Sheep Recovery Presents, and it was DJ Wynn. And when I tell you, like from start to finish, everything moved. It was all the orchestrated by God, the way everything fell into place, the timing of everything, the testimonies, the DJ Wynn's performance, the altar call was just unbelievable, man. I looked up at one point and everybody had their phones up with their flashlights on, and it was just beautiful, man.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've got Night of Hope this Saturday at Trinity. In Byram, and I expect it to be bigger than what just happened this past Saturday. And I look forward to see what God has in mind for our future events, man.
Yeah.
It's just went bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's going to get to where it's going to be bigger than Recovery Fest back in what was it, August,
Yes.
September?
Yeah.
It's going to be bigger than that.
Ultimately, it's going to be, we're having a meeting in about 2 weeks, I think, after Scott Walters from All Things New gets back from Mexico. We're all coming together as one.
Yeah.
It'll be, Black Sheep Recovery, All Things New, and present like a Night of Hope. And I haven't, if y'all want, I'm gonna bring y'all up in the meeting too. Have Unashamed a part of it too. We just literally had this conversation yesterday, so it's pre-planning. But yeah. So
Yeah,
God is definitely moving in the recovery world, man. It almost feels like revival type stuff, man. Almost.
Well, and it's so funny because, like we were talking before we started recording, so many people that I've talked with in recovery are talking about this same topic right here about
Rebuilding the ruins.
rebuilding these, like about how their life is just completely different.
Right.
And I think me and you had that. Oh, I just hit the mic. I think we also had that talk about on our way over here about how that was looking.
Yeah.
And
Matter of fact, it's going to end up being a topic episode. I think, and that was just about being for real, just getting for real with ourselves as far as faith wise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I think people pray for when they're starting their recovery journey, or even when they're still lost in addiction. I know for me, I prayed for love. I prayed for happiness. I prayed for, some stability, house. Cause at that point I was living homeless. Well, I say it was living homeless. It was in an abandoned house eating out of the trash.
Been there.
Yeah, I mean, matter of fact, I think our stories kind of correlate because I was sitting on the back porch, gun in my hand, fired it twice or tried to fire it twice. Nothing happened. Pointed at the woods, fired fine. Pointed back at myself and then tried it again, nothing happened. That's God.
That is nothing but God.
But that was God telling me he wasn't done yet. Yeah. I thought I was too ruined for anything else.
See, you and I do have a parallel there because, not only did, so God took away my ability to get high toward the end, right?
Right.
And it wouldn't matter how much dope I shot or whatever. But even that, I had OD'd multiple times. I couldn't count or tell you how many times I did OD, but he just wouldn't take me. Like there was a point at one time, or more than one time that I was literally dead for about 30 minutes, and the doctor had literally thrown his hands up and said, "There's nothing we can do for this one." I was literally in the room with my body in UMC, and I'm watching all this take place. And there's a couple nurses in there with him, and the nurse stopped him, and she's like, "Well, let's just try the Narcan just to see if that works. We got to do something."
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, fine, whatever. He was not excited about doing it. It's like he didn't want to waste the Narcan, So they hit me with it, and I got slammed back in my body,
Right.
But it was just, and there were times where I woke up in rooms by myself where I should have been dead and had no idea how long I'd been laying there with a needle hanging out of my arm. He just would not let me die, and it was for that reason he had set me apart for something else.
Something greater.
And, something greater. And we know what it is. I mean, it's the same with you. It's the same with Danny. It's the same with Josh. Same with Palmer. Every guest that I've had, every guest that you've had is to pull people out of darkness.
So the greatest thing that I realized whenever I was about to go into rehab, and it's something that I really didn't even think anything about it, never put a second thought to it, but I was sitting outside of my parents' house, spitting every Bible verse that I knew. I was praying as hard as I could. Didn't even know I was praying. Like, I was just talking. I was just talking to God at this point. God, I don't know what else to do in this situation. I don't know how to get out of this. I mean, I was ruined, you know. And in my mindset, I was a ruined piece of fruit. I was ruined completely. And I was just anything to get the devil off my back at that point in time. I mean, I was in tears. My daughter, who was 13 at the time, was sitting there just kind of looking at me like, what is my dad doing? Like, what's wrong with him? You know, but she started tearing up because she heard me praying. You know, of course, I mean, I thought it was just all frivolous talk at this point. But every single word that I said, God used in my rebuilding process.
Amen.
Every single one of them. Yeah. You know, every prayer that was said, because I remember I made this long Facebook post, and I went back and read it. And this was, I mean, it was extenuated. You know, just being high, trying anything. You know, it wasn't even for attention. It was just a cry for help, you know, because I could not find a way to rebuild anything. I was trying to be successful. I was trying to do all these things, but I could not stop getting high. Yeah. You know, but basically what happened was my dad intervened. Weems, which is a health center in Meridian, they came in. They sent the sheriffs out there, which was that was crazy all in its own right. But I mean, God did everything that it took to get me to a point to where he could flatten the ground out, build a foundation in him, and then start reconstructing and start rebuilding. But it was all done through faith that I didn't even know I had at that point. You know, it was just reworking itself in. It was working itself in, working itself in. And so now I thrive on faith alone. Oh, yeah. You know, sometimes my own thoughts get in the way, or my own intrusive thoughts get in the way, but it's really faith alone that drives me.
And it's funny you said that, because right here in my notes, I have this written down that says that there have been moments in my own life where it felt like the ruins were too extensive. But that's where faith stepped in.
Oh, wow.
It's the anchor that holds us steady, believing in the promise of rebuilding. Even in the face of setbacks, it fuels the resilience needed for recovery.
Amen.
So it's funny you said that.
Yeah. Right. But, you know, and I've noticed whenever if I try to rebuild something, or I try to do something different and I don't do it through faith, it always fails.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
It's something that's it's like hanging a light fixture without instructions. It's going to fall down.
That's right.
You know, and that's kind of like how it's been in my life. And I can't speak for everybody else's in recovery, but I know in my life, if I do something outside of faith, it's deemed to either cause some friction, some stress, or it's just never going to work until God puts his hands on it. You know?
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I can tell you that I literally had to jump out of the boat for, you know, in faith, you know, with the whole thing going on with the black sheep, man. You know, the enemy gets in your ear, you know.
Most definitely.
You know, the enemy gets in your ears like, nobody's going to watch that. Nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to care about what you got going on. And, you know, and that happened. And I was like, but, you know, God literally put other people in my path that, you know, cheerleaders, you know, to encourage it. And like, oh, go for it, you know. And literally Brad said something Brad Hancock said something the other day in front of me. He's like, I think we were talking about Stacy's house or something like that. She was just real nervous about buying it. He's like, Stacy, you literally have to jump out of the boat. And that really resonated with me, because it's like, you know, just like, you know, Peter had to get out of the boat and walk toward Jesus, you know, and it resonated with me, because, like, you know, that's just a testament of how strong your faith is.
Well, and also in the same aspect of that, me and my wife, we just came out of this season of just some straight, it's a mix of waiting, and was also in a mix of just financial stress. We were just, it was just a horrible season that me and the wife were in. But in that season, we were waiting to hear from God. Mm-hmm. And we were 6 months into this thing. And
would you say it was like standing in a hallway waiting for a door to open?
Yeah, we were literally, we were in that hallway waiting for God to open the next door.
Hollingshead door 1?
Yeah.
Hollingshead door 1.
That's exactly what it was. And it had gotten to the point where it felt like the hallway had become where it was a hallway with no doors. And we're waiting for the doorway to appear.
Right.
And then waiting for it to open. But when we came out of that season, I told my wife, I said, you know, my biggest lesson that I learned in this was sometimes God will put us in a situation that makes us
Uncomfortable.
but also that will make us to see if our walk will match our talk.
Well, yeah, that goes along with the fruits of the spirit, man. So it's patience, it's long suffering. It's you're gonna go. We're gonna go through those things, and just because he's not answering you on your time doesn't mean he's not going to answer you. It's on God's timing is perfect, man. He had y'all in that waiting season for a reason.
Oh
man,
yeah,
and yeah, that is a true testament to faith too. Is like I think he does that also, putting you in uncomfortable situations to see how strong your faith is.
Yeah, and what the point I was about to make with that, because you were talking about that, made me think about getting out of the boat. The lesson that I learned in all that was sometimes God wants to see if we're willing to take that next step, even when we can't see the whole staircase.
Absolutely,
Yep.
because he's outside of time, man. So he sees the end from the beginning. So that's just God be doing stuff, man. He just be doing stuff.
Well, and that's how we see
Put
it.
that on a T-shirt.
Put that,
God be doing stuff.
God just be doing stuff.
God be doing stuff. Look, let me tell you something. Look, I say that a lot. I say that all the time. It's like my brain. But I'm gonna tell you where that came from real quick, man. It's like my grandfather. He was a very wise man. He was a Greyhound Trailways bus driver for like 30 years, man. And like, so he got all over the country, but he also had like 16 brothers and sisters and came from Lena, Mississippi. So I don't even think he truly knew what his birthday was, because he was literally born in a barn. So, but he was a very wise man, and like something that he passed on to me was my nickname was Mole. Okay, and I'll tell that story some other time. But he's like, I came to him with something. He just put fold his hands and say, "Well, Mole, sometimes it just bees that way. But on the other hand, it don't bees that way." And that never made sense to me, man. It's like, I know it just bees that way sometimes. So it just really stuck with me my whole life. So I just kind of flipped it. God be doing stuff, man.
God don't be doing stuff.
It's things that you can't. It's things that you can't explain. It's like, well, sometimes it just be that way. Sometimes it don't be that way. Well, guess what? God be doing stuff.
Yep.
Well, when I look back over my life, I can see God be doing stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the only thing that how my brain can only rationalize the things that God has done in my life is grace.
Yeah. Here's how I rationalize it. So something Brad recently, a revelation I got through something Brad told me. He was like, I think it's in Jeremiah. It's, God knew you, when he was stitching you together in the womb, it's almost like, he
every fiber of your head.
He knows everything. So so from the time he's literally stitching you together, from that moment, he already sees the end from that. Like, he already has a purpose for that. He already has a purpose for what he's putting together in your mother's womb. It's almost like you're predestined for it. And like in that sense, it's like we have the free will, but so you go through your life and you make these choices, and so you come to a fork and you can go left or you can go right, and depending on which way you go, it's up to you whether you fulfill that destiny, right? So but if God is gonna, definitely fulfill that destiny, he's gonna create circumstances for you to eventually, kind of go that way. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Yeah. It's like all the events leading up from the time I was born up until the point where I was going to end my life in that oak tree. He wasn't going to just make it happen, overnight, like snap his fingers. It's like he literally had to create a circumstance to set me down in prison to keep me from unaliving myself and putting me on that path that he wanted me on. Right. Does that, I'm not trying to get off on a tangent here, but
because that makes perfect sense. Because, with me personally, when I was in high school, I went to a youth camp with my church, and man, I had a extraordinary experience with God at that youth camp, and as plain as day, I could just, people all the time say they heard God tell them. I didn't hear God say anything. But I felt.
I was about to say, sometimes it's just a feeling of overwhelmment, man.
It's feelings of saying, hey, you're going to go into ministry.
Yeah.
Now, for me, growing up in backwoods of Wayne County, growing up in a Pentecostal church, I just assumed that meant you're going to be a preacher, stand up on the pulpit, Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, Sunday nights, that kind of thing. Well, when I got back home from youth camp and got back into school, I got plugged into all these, Bible study at school and the FCA and all these different kind of ministry opportunities at school and got plugged in. Well, but the more I got to thinking about, man, how am I going to go and kind of lead people to Christ and preach and all this? It terrified me. I had never been more scared in my life thinking about it. So I took off running. I pulled a Jonah. I ran from God. And, I made choices that led me down in my path of my porn and sex addiction that took me way down in the hole. Am I not loud enough, Daniel? Right there. I do talk low. But anyway,
That's that clear accent.
Yeah.
It bleeds through sometimes.
But but it led me down that path. And when I came out on the other side in 2017 at that relapse, I got appointed as ministry leader for my CR in Meridian. And it came very, 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 very clear. Okay. I ran from God to the very thing that he would ultimately use me for, that he had placed that calling on my life. At the time, I thought being in ministry was just a preacher.
Yeah.
Ministry is multiple things.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Any act of service done through the name of God, that's
so here I am.
That's ministry in itself.
Here I am. I ran from him to what he was going to use in my life.
Jonah Hollingshead.
Except that, well, I reckon I was going to say I didn't come in contact with no whale, but I reckon the porn and sex was my whale.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
I was going to
it's the belly
say
of the beast
because it swallowed me
because
up.
you're in the middle of something.
Well, I was going to say,
point.
you did have a whale experience because there was something that swallowed you and spit you back out where you needed to be.
Yeah.
And God sent that whale to swallow you and spit you right back over in Nineveh where you needed to be.
Hey, John's got Brother Phoenix. Just start calling me Jonah.
Jonah Hollingshead. That's right.
But anyway, we got way off topic. But I feel like all that still has to do with ruins.
Rebuilding from the ruins. Yeah, I mean, from that moment, you had to. I mean, God literally had to rebuild you. After that relapse, I mean, he had to take what was left. All that garbage and all that ash and everything, and rebuild it to what you are now.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's funny you talk about the relapse. My relapse was probably my greatest tool to get me where I am right now.
Sure.
That relapse, man, that broke me as far as pride, control, all those things that are not of God, really. You were talking about the fruits of the Spirit, but the fruits of the Spirit just tell you that it's going to be a challenge. He's telling you're going to have to armor yourself with these things for the challenge of rebuilding, for the challenge of ministry, for the challenge of what we do on a day-to-day basis. We think that this walk is going to be easy, but it's not easy. Yeah. It's challenging, but it's challenging for a good reason. It's to build us up, because obviously if you're a soldier, you're not going to be weak.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I reckon you could.
Well, I guess. But people thought David was weak.
Yeah.
That's true.
Have y'all ever seen, this is really off topic, have y'all ever seen one of those real slingshots from back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Like, I saw an example of it like a couple of days ago, and that was something serious.
What I learned about
How
David,
they could whip that thing.
Yeah,
so
I think, yeah. But what really amazed me about that whole story, and I just recently learned this. Okay, so, there's a big misconception about that whole story. It's like, if you're really not paying attention to the story, you miss it. That he picked up, was it 4 rocks? 4 smooth stones.
4 smooth
4 or
stones.
5,
4 or 5, something like that. So, like, the reason it wasn't because he thought he'd miss 1, 2, or 3 or 4 times. It's because Goliath had 3 brothers with him. So, in case another one stepped up, he was about to knock the other one down. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. True facts.
Came all the way over here for Phoenix to teach me something. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
But the recurring thing that I've noticed that, what we all keep talking about here, whether it's the relapse, or running from God, is we've all acknowledged before the rebuilding process that we had an issue, that there was some trouble, that there were some cracks in the foundation, that the building was about to fall or it already came down, and you're looking at rubble. That's one thing I've noticed. But how did we get to a point to where we face that and then we give it to God?
Got to step out of that denial.
Yeah.
Desperation.
It was desperation and, stepping out of denial for me, because when I finally said to my dad, I was like, I'm on drugs. I don't know how to stop. Like, I can't. Like, I just don't know how at this point.
And I think that, God literally had to step in the way he did with me because, had I had the opportunity to call my father or my mother or anybody that was close to me to do that at that point when I was suicidal, I probably would have. I'm sure I would have.
Right.
But mine was desperation, and he had to literally get involved to save my life because I didn't have that to call. I couldn't because they were gone.
Right.
And so I literally burned every bridge that poured kerosene on every one of them and lit them on fire. So there was literally nobody I could call. He knew I was fixing to do it. So mine was what I was about to do. So mine was complete desperation.
Right.
For me, mine was just, I got caught.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the best thing to happen.
To get caught.
Yeah. My wife caught me in the middle of adultery. And I look back on it. If she wouldn't have caught me, I would have kept on.
Yeah.
It took her catching me.
Divine intervention.
And
so that's what I'm going back to what I'm saying. It's like, God will create a circumstance to get you caught, to stop you from doing, whatever you're doing.
Getting caught was a weight lifted off of me.
I imagine.
Because it was like, man, I can finally, here I am. I can finally just stop. I can, because I wasn't going to stop until I got caught.
Right.
And I wasn't going to stop on my own. Just, I was so deep off in it. Like I was in a completely different mental status. I was completely absorbed in that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
I loved my sin.
Right.
Loved it. I wasn't going to stop on my own. And so when I finally got caught, man, I could actually sleep. And I had some of the best sleep in my life. My wife had left, took the kid, and was gone to her dad's. And I was at that house by myself, and I actually got sleep.
Right.
Because I ain't got to hide no more.
That
I ain't
reminds me of that
got to have this
scripture.
double life.
Right.
It's all out in the open. And sometimes you're forced into that. Well, you're getting caught, forces you into that.
Yeah, see, I'm terrible at the addresses of certain scriptures, but I'll look this up later. But it reminds me of that one. It says that everything that is in darkness will come to light.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's Galatians.
Yeah.
5.
Well, it's definitely Paul for sure.
I think it's Galatians 5, 6.
Yeah, it's definitely. But
It's New Testament.
yes,
Yeah, it's definitely New Testament.
Oh, but yeah, that is facts.
But y'all were talking about your God moments. I had 2 of them. One was when he intervened with the unaliving attempt. The first one was when I was on my way to prison. I think I've told you this, where I was sitting in the cell, and all of a sudden it was like everything that I'd done wrong, everything that I'd had like hidden or forgotten about, I'd stowed away somewhere in my, mental psyche or in my heart. I just had these things that I was not telling nobody about, all these secrets, and they were weighing on me. And that was what was keeping me down. And that was what was keeping me, in such a dark place. But God said, he sat right there. It was like he was sitting right next to me. And it was just like, here's your list, and I'm wiping all this away. I'm taking every single bit of this away. I'm erasing it.
And I'm not going to remember it.
I'm not going to remember it. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
He was like, "You're forgiven. Now let's move forward and let's go this way with life."
Amen.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, like Josh said, it wasn't like a loud voice. It wasn't a big bang. It wasn't, the flashing lights and thunderstorms. It was a feeling of just weightlessness.
Yeah.
It was like overwhelming love, but with weightlessness.
Well, what I've noticed is when I can always tell when something is from God, I have 100% peace about it.
Yeah.
Like there's no doubt,
No confusion.
no confusion, and that's another thing. I found if I'm in a situation and there's confusion about it, well, okay, let me stop, let me rethink this, let me pray on this, because God is not in confusion.
That's right.
So if I'm confused about this, that's not from God.
That's right.
When I'm in a situation and I have complete peace about it.
Speaking about that rebuilding process, man, and the cracks in the foundation and stuff like that, even, we're still being rebuilt. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, that's going to continue on until we take our last breath. But, I think, in the true rebuilding process, that ultimate, having that ultimate faith in God and in Jesus that is the true foundation crack, fixer right there. It's like, I've gotten to a point in my sanctification that if things start to feel like it's going south or it's going bad, it doesn't even bother me now because I know God's got it. God's already fought that battle for me, and I'm not even, I'm not going to have any anxiety about it or any stress about it, and because I know that if He's literally done in my life what He has done so far since that crash and burn and left in those ashes and rebuilt what He's done now, He's not going to let anything take that away, and He's not going to let anything destroy that. So it really
even
truly,
you.
yeah, He's not even going to let me destroy it. It's like
I say that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like He literally just well, I think I was done, but it's like in the true rebuilding process, I think. That once you figure that out, to cast all your anxieties to the feet of Jesus, then you're just pretty much in His obedience and in His will. He's going to take care of you.
Yeah. But then you said a key thing there. You got to be in that obedience.
Yes.
Now, I'm a firm believer. God is not going to continue to bless you and to do all this if you're not living in obedience. If you're living in continued unrepentant sin, I mean, He
will. Not saying He won't tear it down. He won't correct you because He will. I mean, but that is a key component of the rebuilding process is that you have to stay obedient and to stay in His will.
That's right.
And if you don't, you're going to stay right where you're at, or you're going to take some steps
You'll
backwards,
stall
and
out,
then you'll start moving forward again.
That's right.
And that's only because I know from experience, God has given me these little bitty knickknacks, let's call them that, here and there recently to say, like, just to see where my head's at, or He knows where my head's at. Let me put it that way, because He knows all. He's showing me where my head's at, and that's kind of a aha moment right now, because I was thinking about some things on the way up, coming from Meridian to here, it was just really funny because I was thinking about all the aspects of life right now where I'm having some trouble, and why I'm having trouble there. It's because I think that I've done this stuff, or I've put this together, or I keep trying to put my hands into it, not knowing that God's telling me you're mishandling this. Like, take a step back, because you're not doing it in faith. Take a step back, because it's not how I'm trying to rebuild this. You're trying to do it your way. Let me do it my way.
Yeah.
So stop mishandling what I'm giving you right now. Just hold on to it. Hold on to it, and then I'll show you how to use it.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And that's pretty much my entire recovery right now. It's just stop mishandling some of these blessings that you're getting, some of these things that I'm trying to show you. Stop mishandling it.
Yeah. Well, it's been a good episode.
That's been a very good episode.
Oh, if we didn't have another guest coming in, I would say let's keep on rolling. But we're gonna wrap this thing up. I got a couple things I'm gonna share with everybody. Some steps that you can take to come out of this. Before I share that, I'm gonna ask both of you this. John, what would your life look like or your recovery, what would your recovery look like if you knew without a doubt that God was going to rebuild your ruins? How would your recovery be different
than it is now?
Yeah, if you knew, like, if just 100.
You're talking about when we were in addiction to now, or you're saying
like now, like
right now?
Like if you knew, if you were living 100% of operating of God is going to do this, like 100% faith without a doubt, how would you live differently? How would recovery be different right now?
Oh, I'd look like a complete radical.
Oh yeah,
I would be all over the place.
Yeah,
A little. I say all over the place. It'd be controlled, but I mean, it'd be more like one of those things. You're just kind of like, okay, I'm about to not work this job. I'm not about to do this over here real quick because I'm about to go over here because God's rebuilding something. You know,
well, I'm gonna tell you that I feel like that. So, how would I live differently? I mean, how would that be different? I don't see how it would be much different aside from the fact that I would just be full-time ministry, which I think we're heading in that direction anyway. Then, I would be able to spread the gospel and do a lot more in the prisons and on the streets, some street evangelism, and we're kind of heading toward that. Does that answer the question? It's like, I know that this isn't where it stalls out. I mean, I know it goes above and beyond what we're doing here in the studio. And for Black Sheep, the sky's really the limit. It's really up to God. And, like I said earlier, it's like he sees the end from the beginning, and I have no idea what's going to happen. But I know this: I'm not going to change a thing that I'm doing right now. And if I live a lifestyle of full obedience. If God tells me to do something, I do it. And no matter how crazy it sounds. I mean, if he told me to walk into a Kroger and stand on my head.
So that's what I meant by radical.
Yeah, I would
like these things that God's given me thoughts on that I keep second guessing, or I keep it's natural. You want to doubt some things, not doubt it, but you just kind of like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not sure if I have the resources for this, or I'm not sure if I can, really get out there on this path like you want me to because of X, Y, and Z on the back end. If we take that out and we understand that through faith, it's gonna work out.
For me, it had to get beyond fear of man, like embarrassment, things like that. And it's like, and now, I'm just about past that. It's like with the TikTok, I struggle with doing the lives, and I do, and making the little videos by myself because in a way I haven't been obedient about that, and he's been telling me to do it every day, and I'm just like, I'm not good at it, but I know I'm just not good at doing those types of things. But for everyone I do, it gets a lot. The views get a little higher and things like that. So I know that. So I'm not being obedient that way. But so if I got full on obedient about that, I just know that he would use that one little thing to change a life that might be over in Cambodia. Yeah. So I guess to answer the question, I guess it would be I don't guess I'd be doing much anything different because I'm just living that obedient lifestyle.
Yeah. For me, when I think about that same question, I would stop giving life to my past. What I mean by that is stop replaying it, stop living in my past.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if I was living a life that reflected of me knowing 100% that God's going to rebuild my ruins, then what's the purpose of going back and visiting my past?
Right.
There's no point in it.
Yeah, why check up on a dead person?
Well, it's funny you bring.
Yes. Why dig up?
Why are you going to check on the health of a dead person?
Yes. Yes.
I literally had somebody stop me
right there, Josh. Those little.
That's why
it's funny.
I pay you so much.
I'm glad. See, listen, this is the whole God thing right now. What I'm about to say, because I literally had somebody stop me and pray. This job we started yesterday at this a friend's house. That I go to church with, and she literally, before I could walk out the door, said, "I need you to pray for me." And I was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Somebody from my past, from about 20 years ago, is threatening to bring something up from my past that could potentially hurt me." And I was like, "No." So I prayed for her, and I was like, "Listen." And when I was done praying for her, I said, "Listen, that person that I said, you're not living that lifestyle anymore, are you?" "No." I said, "Then don't worry about it. That weapon formed against you will not prosper." I said, I mean, pray for your enemy, like I just did. I prayed for her enemy, and I said, just don't even worry about that. That your past is your past. That's dead and buried, and just move forward. Don't live in fear of the present or the future from that. I mean,
yeah, man. God moments.
Good episode, man. Great episode.
Good episode. As we wrap this thing up, as always, I like to leave the listeners with a little bit of something or other they can take with them. So I got some steps that each one of you can take to implement into your own lives of how you can rebuild from the ruins. Number one, and Drew already hit on this, acknowledge the ruins.
Yeah. You
can't go get help if you don't acknowledge
it. Look at the crashed building.
Like it's the same way of, well, I broke my arm, but I can't go get help and get it fixed until I acknowledge, well, that arm is broken. It needs some help. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to acknowledge it. So you can't rebuild the ruins if you don't acknowledge it. You got to take that honest inventory. So that's number one. Number two, set some clear goals. Be very specific and get some achievable goals. Don't set something so high that you cannot achieve it. Set some realistic, achievable goals and break them down into manageable steps to avoid feeling overwhelmed. Number three, establish a support system.
It's not a solo mission. I think a lot of people try to do. Yes, recovery can be a little selfish at times, and it needs to be a little selfish at times. It has to be. Yep. But at the same time, you still have to commune with other people. I mean, we were designed to interact with other people, fellowship with brothers and sisters.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. All right. So that was number two. Was that number three?
That was
number three. Number four, embrace faith and spirituality. Cultivate your spiritual connection. Now, with us, that's God.
Yep.
But we do have some listeners that are not on that same walk. So whatever that may be for you, cultivate that spiritual connection. Faith can be a powerful anchor during challenging times, providing strength and purpose. We already talked about that. The next, forgive yourself. You've got to. If you want to be able to rebuild those ruins, move on from it, you're going to have to forgive yourself. You got to let go of the guilt and the shame.
And I think that ties into stop visiting the dead person.
Stop digging them up.
Stop checking on them.
Yep.
They're dead.
Forgive yourself, learn from experiences, and then keep moving forward. And then the last one, reflect regularly. Now, I'm not saying visit the past. I'm saying reflect regularly. It's a difference. Set aside some time for some self-reflection. Evaluate your progress. Reassess those goals that you set and adjust your plan as needed.
Yeah.
That's how you measure your growth. That's important.
Most definitely. Got to know where you came from
Right.
and know where you're going and seeing the difference.
Right.
Remember, rebuilding is a gradual process, and every step forward is a victory. No matter how small that step is, it's a victory. Be patient with yourself, stay committed to your recovery, and then believe in the possibility of transformation.
Amen.
Well, that's all I got for this episode. Drew, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this thing up?
I think I've said a lot.
You have said a lot.
I have.
John?
No, I think I said I'm more than both of y'all put together. I apologize for that.
Well,
one more. I will say another wise man that something I learned from Aubrey Pridgeon at All Things New.
Aubrey is a wise man.
He is. Trust the process. Revelation 21:5.
It's a good,
Definitely.
It's a good piece of advice. Well, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Unashamed Recovery. I hope that you have found it helpful and encouraging. And if you're listening and you're still in that darkness of addiction, we hope that today's testimony, well, not really a testimony, really that was kind of a topic episode.
It was more of a chat.
Yeah. Anyway, we hope that it was encouraging and has been a lighthouse guiding you out of that pit and into the hope of sobriety and recovery.
And for more recovery content, visit our brand new website, unashamedrecovery.com. There you will find addiction resources, new and old episodes of the show, plus sobriety and faith recovery themed blogs to take you deeper deeper into your recovery and sobriety journeys. You can even donate to the show to help us reach more people still lost in the darkness of addiction. Also, check out more amazing recovery podcasts over at Take 12 Recovery Radio, Recovery Podcast Network. That link is in the show notes as well as under our partners page on the new website.
And that's all we've got for this episode. Remember to stay sober, and above all else, keep on 12-stepping as you stay
Unashamed.